Welcome back to New Rockstars, I'm Erik Voss, and Marvel Studios' Blade is officially trapped in development hell. A film endlessly delayed, cycling through multiple directors and screenwriters, last announced to release November 7th, 2025, but as of San Diego Comic-Con in July, quietly delayed again, as Kevin Feige announced just 3 Marvel films will release in 2025, Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four First Steps, and nothing else. And Mahershala Ali just appeared in a photo for Jurassic World Rebirth, a movie none of us knew was happening back when he was announced as Blade in July 2019, and now a movie releasing way sooner than Blade probably will, if it ever releases. A recent appearance by Wesley Snipes as the original Blade in Deadpool and Wolverine even touched on this subject, as Snipes said, "There's only been one Blade, there's only ever gonna be one Blade," and Deadpool gives a knowing look at the camera. After the movie's release, Ryan Reynolds even saluted his co-star, originally from the fraught Blade Trinity production, on Instagram, calling for, quote, "more Blade please," and adding a Logan-style send-off specifically. Jessica Clemons and I broke down what the is happening with the MCU Blade movie in an episode of the sneak peek, but in this video I am going to go into what I think is the real reason the most recent promising version of this Blade film got derailed, and one plan to save this film. And we actually have a Wesley Snipes Blade inspired design available on our merch store, nerdriot.shop. Grabbing something from there is really the best way to support New Rockstars. Okay, one thing that often goes overlooked about the Blade character is how the 1998 Blade film starring Wesley Snipes, directed by Stephen Norrington for the studio New Line, really was a completely shocking success, given how little known Blade was at the time. Blade was introduced back in 1973's Tomb of Dracula number 10, and then fought Morbius in Adventure into Fear number 24 in 1974, and then got a black and white solo series in Vampire Tales from 1974 to 75. But he really only rose to prominence from appearances in the 90s, starting with Ghost Rider number 28, and then in Midnight Suns, and other comics until he co-starred in Night Stalkers from 1993 to 1994, followed by his first color series, Blade the Vampire Hunter in 1994-1995. Really, Blade was not one of these legacy heroes that was at the tops of Marvel comic readers' minds when New Line moved forward with the 1998 Wesley Snipes film. But that film was such a hit, Marvel's first true successful wide-release film, that this film was used as a proof of concept for all Marvel film adaptations thereafter. Without Blade, we would not have had Fox's X-Men films, we would not have had Sony's Spider-Man films, and without Fox's X-Men films, we would not have Kevin Feige's career, and we would not have the MCU. We all have Blade to thank for that. And Wesley Snipes' take on Blade was just so well appreciated that it really redefined the character in fans' minds. And I go into this history to establish 3 things. One, that Marvel Studios is not bound by any sacred comics origins for the character. Like, when people think about Blade, they really just think of Wesley Snipes' Blade. And that gives Marvel Studios a lot of free reign to really do whatever they want with the Mahershala Ali Blade. 2, Blade is historically more of a team player than he is a loner, despite having the moniker of the Daywalker. Even in Wesley Snipes' Blade movies, starting with the second movie, he starts to team up with people right away. And 3, the Wesley Snipes version of Blade remains so iconic that the studio really needs to take a different approach with the new Mahershala Ali Blade, and especially after Snipes' return in Deadpool and Wolverine, that difference needs to be even more pronounced and even more Marvel Studios flavored. So let's break down the development timeline of this Blade franchise. Of course, 1998, 2002, 2004, the Blade trilogy starring Wesley Snipes releases under New Line, the third of which co-starring Ryan Reynolds as Hannibal King, and really begins Ryan Reynolds' relationship with Marvel. 2006, Spike produces 1 season of a Blade TV series starring Kirk Sticky Fingers Jones, so Wesley Snipes technically was not accurate when he says that there's only been one Blade. July 2011, Marvel Comics CCO Joe Quesada confirms at Comic-Con that Marvel has regained the film rights for The Punisher and Blade. July 2019, Kevin Feige closes out Marvel Studios San Diego Comic-Con Hall H panel by announcing that 2-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali will be playing Blade in a future film. March 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic impacts the movie industry as a number of projects get delayed. That should not have affected things like writing a movie, Zoom meetings, a writer in their own home working on a script draft. In fact, a number of films were written during the pandemic by writers just staying at home, but it would have affected other parts of movie development, like creative brainstorming meetings, like artists all in a room together, ideating concepts, looking at each other's art, that kind of thing. October 1st, 2020, in an interview on the podcast The Tightrope, Mahershala Ali revealed that when he first approached Marvel Studios about playing Blade, note, he approached them, they were considering rebooting the character in a television series rather than in a film, and that it took, quote, a couple of years for them to come to a conclusion and cast him in the film. So from this interview, we learned that Mahershala Ali is really the unofficial spokesperson of the Blade film, and it's clear that this actor has taken a far more hands-on role in the creative development of the character and of the story. In fact, he's probably going to end up with a producer credit on this film. February 5th, 2021, Stacey Osei Kuffour is hired to write the first draft of the script. Production originally wanted to begin in September 2021, but it was pushed back to July 2022 to give the script more time. September 1st, 2021, Bassam Tariq is announced as the director. November 2021, the Eternals film releases, featuring the first appearance of Mahershala Ali's Blade in the MCU. Off-screen, meeting Kit Harington as Dane Whitman in the post-credit scene when Whitman picks up the ebony blade.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
So from this moment on, we know that Blade is going to be putting together some type of team. November 19th, 2021, Delroy Lindo joins the cast in an unknown role. February 2022, Aaron Pierre joins the cast in an unknown role. Pierre is an English actor, and he's actually going to be voicing young Mufasa in my favorite holiday release, Joe Mufasa, and it's believed that he might have played the villain in the Blade film, perhaps Deacon Frost or Dracula. April 27, 2022, the movie's working title is announced, Perfect Imprints, probably referring to the imprints of a vampire bite. There's nothing like the smell of something baking in the oven, and with Wild Grain. Wild Grain is the first ever bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough bread, fresh pastas, and artisanal pastries. Unlike typical supermarket bread, Wild Grain uses a slow fermentation process that can be easier on your belly, richer in nutrients and antioxidants, and can help lower blood sugar spikes. Every item bakes in 25 minutes or less from the freezer. Pop a loaf of sourdough in the oven, start an episode of The Mandalorian, and you'll be eating fresh baked bread before the Portuguese credits roll. You'll never run the risk of getting bored. Wild Grain is constantly adding new, seasonal, and limited time special items to try when you build your next box. Producer Zach bakes some slow fermented ciabatta rolls and giant chocolate chunk cookies for the office. The whole staff gobbled these up and loved the texture and flavor. Oh my God, thank you, Zach. Thank you, Wild Grain. If you want to check out Wild Grain, be sure to click on my link in the description and use my code Rockstars to get $30 off your first box. Plus, you'll get free croissants in every box. And thanks again to Wild Grain. June 23rd, 2022, young actor Milan Ray joins the cast. July 2022 is San Diego Comic-Con, and Blade is finally given a release date of November 2nd, 2023, and the production start date has been pushed back to October 2022. But as we got closer to that production start date, on September 27, 2022, Bassam Tariq is announced to be leaving the film. And Marvel announces that they have brought in Bo DeMeo as a new writer, and Bo begins writing a new draft of the film. October 11, 2022, production just shuts down as they look for a new director, and the release date is pushed to September 6, 2024. On November 21st, 2022, Jan Demange is now announced to be the new director. Michael Starbury is announced to be writing the new script. Production is set to begin in May 2023, and Jan Demange is best known at this point for directing the first episode of Lovecraft Country. April 2nd, 2023, Mia Goth is announced to be joining the cast, and then on April 28th, 2023, Marvel has brought in yet another writer to write the script, Nick Pizzolatto, best known from True Detective. May 5th, 2023, the WGA strike begins and shuts down all writing. And then in June 13th, 2023, Blade's release date is pushed back to February 14th, 2025. On November 1st, 2023, the WGA strike has come to an end. Michael Green is now doing a page one rewrite. Michael Green co-wrote the Logan film and co-wrote Blade Runner 2049, An Alien Covenant, and Murder on the Orient Express, and American Gods. He's perhaps the most accomplished screenwriter who's been attached to this project. And director Jan Demange confirms that the film will be rated R. Shortly after this, on November 9th, 2023, the release date for Blade was pushed to November 7th, 2025. And ever since then, we have not yet heard, as of this taping, any new release date. And then in March 2024, Aaron Pierre says that he has left the project. In May 2024, Scooper Daniel Richtman says that the story is locked, but that Michael Green's work was done for the movie, and they may be bringing in yet a new writer to do some other touch-ups, and that filming is going to begin in either Mexico or Brazil in fall 2024, Coogler, and that they would be casting a new male villain. And then in summer 2024, Blade got no mention at San Diego Comic-Con or at D23. It's believed that Jan Demange is still directing the film, but Kevin Feige confirmed that the movie will not release in 2025, and that would mean that the next open release window would be February 2026. So it sounds like Mahershala Ali got announced, then COVID delayed everything, even though it shouldn't have delayed the writing. Then they had Bassam Tariq as director with Stacey Osei Kufur's script, and then in September 2022, Marvel got cold feet and started over, bringing in Mr. Misconduct, Bo DeMeo, and then I Hate True Detective Night Country, Nick Pizzolatto, and then hired a new director, Jan Demange, but then the WGA strike halted any writing of a new draft, and then in November 2023, they brought in the most experienced of any of these writers, Michael Green, and that should have been enough to move forward with this version of it. So what happened to that third phase of Blade's development lifespan? Well, I believe Ryan Coogler happened. In January 2024, it was reported that Ryan Coogler, director of Black Panther and Black Panther Wakanda Forever for Marvel, was now working on an untitled black vampire movie with Warner Brothers, starring Michael B. Jordan in the lead role and even co-starring Delroy Lindo, who had been attached to Marvel's Blade. The film just wrapped production in New Orleans on July 17th under the working title Grilled Cheese, and it is set to release as soon as March 7th, 2025. We are going to get an announcement and a trailer about this movie any day now. And I'm willing to bet that after Disney shot their 2023 Haunted Mansion film in New Orleans to benefit from Louisiana's tax breaks, and with that movie embraced the city's history with Afro-Caribbean folklore and the city's ties to vampire mythology as the hometown of writer Anne Rice, that Marvel's fresh take on Blade would have involved a story set around New Orleans. I think there's a good chance that Ryan Coogler's film was just too similar to what Marvel's latest plan was for Blade. Now, we don't know that for sure yet. There's just no other reason it should be taking this long. Marvel Studios cannot cancel Blade. Blade is still too valuable of a character. Mahershala Ali is too big of an actor, and the blowback the studio would receive after it was announced that they're paying Robert Downey Jr. somewhere around $95 million to return as Victor Von Doom might just be something that the studio could never recover from. So here is my proposal for how Marvel should move forward with its Blade project. Blade Midnight, releasing February 13th, 2026. We have to remember that Blade has already appeared in the MCU in this one off-screen line.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
So the first time we technically meet the MCU Blade, he is building a team. And so introducing their version of Blade as the leader of a team of supernatural warriors with supernatural relics, a team called the Midnight Suns, is where this project should go. Making Blade a member of a team would not be a betrayal, but rather would just follow that narrative thread introduced in the Eternals post-credit scene, and would really reflect to readers of the 90s comics what they already know about the character. And it would be something that films have so far not yet fully given us, and it would be what Marvel Studios is uniquely positioned to do with the character and what they've always been best at. Team first. The MCU Blade film does not have to be a solo origin story. It doesn't even have to be a story set in the roots of vampire horror folklore. We've seen that. That window has closed. We just need to see Blade now in action in the MCU that we know and love. We need him to be introduced to everyone else in the MCU who fights these kind of demons, the leader of Marvel's horror lineup. Imagine a Blade-led Midnight Suns team-up film starring Mahershala Ali Blade, co-starring Oscar Isaac Moon Knight, Kit Harington, Dane Whitman, someone from the cast of Agatha All Along, like maybe Catherine Hahn as Agatha Harkness, Aubrey Plaza as Rio Vidal, maybe Sashir Zameda as Jennifer Kale, a character from the comics who often teams up with these types of groups, as well as someone from Werewolf by Night, like maybe Gael Garcia Bernal as Jack Russell, or Man-Thing, or Laura Donnelly as Elsa Bloodstone. And then, of course, you gotta round out this team with Ghost Rider, the proper MCU Ghost Rider. Let's do it. Let's go. That would make the natural villain of the story, I'm sorry, but Mephisto. And just to be clear, I don't want Mephisto to be in everything, folks. I just want him to be the villain of a story that makes sense for him to be the villain, and that story is Midnight Suns. And this would allow Marvel to do a Midnight Suns story without having to rename the group or change SONS to SUNS like they had to do with the game. This could just be Blade Midnight, and this group could effectively be the Midnight Suns. Now, sure, you would still need a narrative angle. This is a movie, after all, and movies are stories, not just like a list of characters. But there could be a story that necessitates each of these characters and their their power sets. Like, one possible angle could just be to look back at the classic Greek myths, like the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, how Orpheus had to venture into the underworld to rescue his deceased wife Eurydice. What if the plot of this Midnight Suns movie would be a rescue mission to find and to extract the Scarlet Witch from Mephisto in Hell? Like, we find out that Mephisto is actually keeping Wanda in Hell by trapping her in an illusion with Vision. And all of the Midnights could want something in their own hearts and end up being tempted by Mephisto to break from the team to acquire their wants. This story is in development hell right now. Why not just embrace it being in the Marvel hell? I don't know, maybe that's too fantastical of a setting for a film that still primarily needs to just introduce Blade to the MCU. I get that, but I think there's nothing wrong with introducing a title character as a member of a team first. Peter Parker, introduced to the MCU in Civil War on Team Iron Man first. Black Panther was introduced in Civil War on Team Iron Man first. Hawkeye was introduced in Thor on the Avengers first. Black Widow was introduced in Iron Man 2 and was also on the Avengers first. Sam Wilson was introduced in Winter Soldier. Thanos was introduced in Guardians of the Galaxy. Team first has always been the MCU's formula. And when life events and similar projects that rival studios force you into a corner, there is no shame in going back to formula. So let's save Blade by giving him a team. But what do you think about this Blade Midnight idea? Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow me at EA Voss. Subscribe to all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.